Come on.
Well, Pinder brought it up already. So Honzek is definitely not a center.
I mean,
and I'm not.
I would say,
was he not supposed to be?
If you're not playing center at a prospects tournament and you're not playing center in training camp and you didn't play center as a 19-year-old in the Western League last year, you might be a center, but God, it's probably a 4 out of 100% chance. It's so unlikely to happen at this point when you can't do it against younger men than you in junior. And then when you're at a prospect tournament where the results don't matter and they can get a free look, when they can kick the tires on you as a center. Now, again, the same stipulations that we talked about with some other guys like Pelche. It's like you lost a lot of time to injury last year, and that might have changed how people view you, and your opportunities are a little different now. But if he hasn't played center yet, why would he start now?
But did we draft him? Was the thought?
The thought was he could be a center, but he was drafted as a winger.
Fellas, may I speak freely?
Yes, you may.
Without did Jack laugh again? Or did he cough?
How are you hearing this? Is your mic on?
It's the hearing loss clinic. They've done amazing things for me. Rhodesy over there doing great work. Let's be honest with each other. To this point, Sam Honzek has had a rough go since being drafted as a Flame.
Correct.
He's had injuries. His play has not been at the level you would expect. As I think you said it the other day, you would like someone who's a first-round pick back in junior to dominate.
This should be a year.
Even after the injury, he did not do that. This is about repairing confidence, trying to make the best of a potentially bad situation. Let's build it. And I would suggest the wing position is a little easier than it is to play center. So if the wing right now gets him points and goals and confidence and starts to build him back, that's the path of least resistance. That's what they're going to do right now. You hate to have to do with a kid 2 years out of his draft. You don't want to have to do that. So to your point, Ryan, for sure, play him at center. Put him at. I feel like there's more to it. This is a first-round pick.
He's never been a center.
If you want to say there's more to it and dive into this, are we not? I don't even want to because it's rumors, but I've talked to or heard from a few people that were questioned the pick from the start, and it's like, ooh, we don't need that.
I got a quote here from an exchange with an NHL front office member. Bad pick, soft as a grape, not a center. 0 compete, average skill, and a late birthday. People in the chat are saying he's 19. He'll turn 20 before New Year's Eve, which means it's his 20-year-old year.
Yeah, he's 20 right away, isn't he? Like November?
Right. And so that's why he's eligible to play in the A. At 19, you'd have to stay in major junior. So look, that's not a consensus opinion, but if you're worried, there's reasons to be worried. It doesn't mean it's not going to work, but there's certainly some red flags if he doesn't. It's a very big year for him to establish himself. He's going to play against men. He's jumping up a level after not really dominating junior. A point per game as a 19-year-old ain't enough.
Here's my frustrating take on it, I guess, for me personally. I don't follow the junior hockey and the draft, but the rumblings I heard was that it was a bit of a stab in the dark. This was not a consensus. You have to take this kid at this point.
We saw a bunch of kids slide to where the Flames were picking, I believe it's 16 in Nashville. And the big names that slid were not Sam Honzek. Now, that doesn't mean he wasn't the right pick for the team, but there were some very high-profile players that weren't supposed to be there at 16 that got there. And I was kind of like miffed by the pick because I don't know anything about Honzek, but I just heard about all these great players that should have been gone, and there they were when the Flames pick, and they didn't take it. I'm like, when you do that, you better be effing sure that this kid's going to be the guy. Yeah, like the Yegor Chinnikov thing with Columbus. It's like no one's heard the name. Like, it better work out, friends. That's a first rounder, and he's a good player. Give Columbus credit. And
Honzek, okay, he was hurt, but there should be signs of life. And you guys were in Penticton.
It was a mixed bag. There was almost no signs of life.
It can't be a mixed bag if you're first.
Let me walk you through what I saw, and you can call it whatever you want. Game 1, not noticeable. Game 2, he played with Stromgren and Morton, 2 of the older forwards on the team. Looked much better. Game 3, scored on a breakaway and kind of was in and out. He was not as noticeable as the 3 first-round picks since him, which are Gridden and obviously Perrick, and then I'm throwing Bash in there because he was a guy that's was a high. Like all 3 of those guys, I would place higher.
Oh my goodness! I mean, now you are being very nice. Like, you're being very kind. The first game against Winnipeg, you didn't notice him. It was everybody.
No, yeah, that's what I just said.
You didn't notice him.
He did not have any fingerprints on the game.
And then in the Edmonton game, Now, the Oilers, I think probably everyone would say the weakest club at the tournament with what they have for prospects right now. Yeah, he was a little better, but they also played him with the 25-year-old pro in Morton and Stromgren,
who was drafted in 21. Yeah, I've stated just both those things. I'm in total agreement with you.
I mean, no, but listen, it's not good.
No,
there's going to have to be a major turnaround, a major breakout for this not to be a failed pick. That's just the way it is as we sit here right now, because
it's trending that
you
way.
sat there and there were there were a lot of other guys that flashed and made you notice.
I agree. I got
very little.
This is the problem with going off the
one thing though. Hang on. Where were we at on Connor Zary a year ago? Right now, be honest with yourself.
Okay, you're right.
Where were you? Be honest. Tell us.
He was a forgotten man.
Failed pick, injuries, plus probably not a good
pick.
Just
a forgotten man.
Damn it.
But he came into
failed. It was just forgotten.
Yeah.
A first rounder not being remembered. That's not a failed pick.
We didn't talk about, like, there was no rookie camp. We didn't see him. There was no barometer on him. We didn't talk about him at all.
People had already flushed the pick, essentially. Otherwise, you don't forget about it.
Okay, tell me what I think.
What do you mean? You're saying he's a forgotten pick? Then you just forgot about a first round guy? How do you forget about a first round guy? It's a failed pick if you've forgotten about him. No,
did we talk about him to the degree we've talked about Honzek?
No. And so my point is not that, right or wrong. It's just that Zary had a year plus of injury issues that completely changed his stock in the hockey world.
And COVID.
Honzek's had the same, and COVID as well. So I understand how we feel about Honzek. It doesn't mean it won't work, but I think probably the realistic thing here, fellas, is that he's very likely to end up being a middle six winger in the NHL. And I don't know that there's more ceiling above that.
Yeah. And I just go back to, and again, I've got plenty of CTE, so I could be wrong. What was the approach from the team as to why they took him? To me, it sounded like they thought they'd found something that nobody else saw. And when you do a pick like that, it's like, okay, again, we just said it. It better turn out, because you had other options, guys that had slid. It was somewhat, maybe not a stunning off the board out of left field pick, but it certainly wasn't a consensus. It was like, huh. Okay.
I don't think they were trying to be, haha, look at us. Like, that wasn't the impression I got. They just really liked what they saw. They talked about him willing his team back into games they were behind. I think they thought he could be a center. They love the pro body. He moves well for a man of his size. They liked him. I don't think they thought it was a reach, but maybe they
everyone else did.
Yeah. I think the consensus elsewhere was that was a little early.
Yeah, I mean,
but if he's healthy, who knows? Maybe he's a point and a half per game and he's played center for a year. Like, that's what injuries do.
Yeah, there's injuries. You can't. But I guess, yes, there's injuries, and maybe that's slowed him down, and maybe the Flames will end up being right on the pick over the long haul, and it'll prove itself out. But a year out, it wasn't a consensus pick. People tell you things that they're like, I can't believe they took him there.
Yeah.
And you start to go, and then you don't see him in camp. Okay, well, how long does the injury thing hold you back? Like, why aren't you noticeable in game one? It sounds like he was barely noticeable.
Yeah, he was not.
So, over the weekend. Like, he should be in a position where it's like, I'm ready to start.
go back, so you're saying, Ryan, that we had conversations that Zary was a failed pick, like we're talking like this?
We barely talked about
I'm not saying it's the
Zary.
exact same. I'm saying there's a ton of
He was
similarities.
coming out of COVID. He went back to junior, had great numbers, made the Canadian World Junior team, went to the American Hockey League, had an okay first season. Like,
tell me about the first year. What did you do?
What first year?
You said the first year in American League, an okay season. I don't have it in front of me. What
he had 13 goals and 25 points in 53 games.
That's not that good. I think Honzek could do that this year. I just think there's
half
a lot
a point a
game.
So half a point a game in your first year. If it was somebody else that you were all gung ho and horny for, you'd be telling me how great it was.
No, a half point per game as a 20-year-old is respectable. It's not like Matthew Phillips would have done better than that his first year in that league. No,
as a 19-year-old, half point 19? A game in the A, you would be like,
there's no 19-year-old
tipping the table over.
You're not allowed to play in the A at 19. There was a little COVID exception. That was it. I just think there's a lot of similarities with Zary, Dino, and no one thought Zary would be a contributing part on the big club last year. Never mind one of the great stories of the season. That's my only point here. They're not the same.
I hope
there's some similarities.
I'm not even saying I hope it's not about me. It's just there's been very little that has gone right for this pick. He's gotten injured. The numbers haven't been there. He struggled to come back. We just sat through a rookie tournament and you had to look to find him. It was halfway through the first game and it was like, oh shit,
yeah,
he's playing, because there were so many other guys who were like flashing. It's like, oh, he looks good. And look at the speed and look at the skill. And wow, that's something else. Oh, right. Honzek.
Yeah. So we're talking about a guy that was the captain of his junior team and was essentially, he's only played 33 games since he was drafted. And he's basically a point per game player. What you want to see this year is a guy that can make an impact at the American League level. He's 20. It's his 20-year-old season. He's not 20 yet. It's his 20-year-old year. Nobody on this show at this time last year said Connor Zary is going to make the big club. Nobody on this show last year said Connor Zary is going to play a significant role in the big club. And nobody on the show thought Connor Zary was going to be one of the great stories of the season. So the hope, if you're a Flames fan, is that not unlike Connor Zary, who had a lot of time post-draft class marred by injury and COVID, to your point, Rhett, that the story is not done. But I agree with you, Dean. It's not how you would have wanted it to go, having played just 33 games since he was selected by them in Nashville.
The trends in the questions are
it's concerning.
Are concerning,
but it certainly is not in stone at this point.
And again, I don't want Honzek to.
Nobody does. It's not in anyone's best interest for Honzek to fail. And to your point about World Juniors, I mean, he's gone and played for Slovakia and he's played internationally too. I just think it's more comparable than you think, Dino. The talk.
All I'm saying is I'm just talking about our conversations.
Yeah.
We never talked about Zary. He better make the team or it's a failed pick. Yes, it was a huge shock when he came in because there was no expectation at that point for him to make the team.
Yeah, and Zary at that pick, I don't know if it was consensus, but it wasn't to me. Honzek was off the board at that point. With what else was available?
Yeah. They traded down a couple times to get Zary at 24.
It was it's a lower pick than 16 too, to be fair. The expectation's not the same. At 24 doesn't hit as often as 16. Those are different probabilities of success.
Anyway, I want the kid to do well. The rumblings I've heard are like there's way more questions than we would like. And I don't like, if you're going to miss on a pick, it better not be because you thought you were smarter than someone else. Again, I'm not saying that's what it totally was, but there's
some outside opinions that is the case.
Yes.
Yeah. I don't think the Flames thought they're going off board, but I agree. I think other organizations like, ooh, that's a little early. Look, it's a huge year for him because here's the thing. If you strap him next to Stromgren and Morton on the top line in the American League all year, I wouldn't be surprised if he had a good year. But it's just like the opposite also would be painful. If he can't find traction in the A, it's like, oh God.
Yeah. Look here. Yeah.
So, and what's the separation between it'd be nice if he had a good year and he should have a good year. If he's going to get put on the top line with a 25-year-old pro, if you're a first round pick, you should have a good year.
He played 33 games in the last 14, 15 months, and he's going to go play against men. It's going to be a challenge, but I think he could do what Connor Zary did his first AHL season. If you hate that comp, I'll keep it going.
And anyway, Boom loves this game. We should go to the draft pick. Go look at the
Oliver
years.
Moore was a guy that slid that put up some crazy numbers. I know that was sort of a guy that a lot of people thought wouldn't be there at 16. There was some other, again, we talked about the draft class a ton about how incredibly deep it was, and no one traded their first once we got past the trade deadline. There wasn't a single trade in the first round for the first time in ages. We'll see. ASP, the Swedish defenseman, Axel Sandin Pellikka, he was a guy that very well-rounded, considered to be a top 4 defenseman guy. He went the pick after. I really thought it would be him. I saw him in the elevator in Nashville. He said, I hope it's Calgary. It was kind of cool. Colby Barlow is a guy that went to the Jets. There's still some very talented players. Gabe Perreault, a massive slide. He was the guy that put up huge numbers at the U.S. National Development Team program. He slid all the way to the Rangers at 23. Some teams didn't like him, but in terms of just the numbers, they're prolific. So there were safer picks to be sure, but we also a year out isn't when we get the final grades.
And I don't give a shit what they say. They wanted him to be a center, and if he can't be a center and he still plays, it's fine. But they wanted him to be a center. They're looking at that frame going, yeah, we want a big 6'3" center down the middle We don't have center. There's no way you're. Anyway.
And the things they liked him for, he's still good at. Big pro body, protects the puck well. There it is. Protect the puck, 6'4". Like there's lots of tools there still.
Is he toolsy?
I mean, he's a first rounder, Dean. It's hard to not find a toolsy first rounder. Yeah.
Ton of finesse, Dean.
6'4", protects the puck well, lots of finesse.
Dean, he fakes cutbacks in one direction, so he's going this way.
Yeah, and then
before going the other way.
That's like Pinder's takes.
Yeah,
he'll be going one way, and then you just never know where it's going to go.
I got to keep you guys on your toes,
I guess. Dean.
No, but it's just look. I understand.
We'll move on. We're crushing the kid for no reason. Because you go through that list, and it's not like I'm going to sit here and tell you, they should have taken him or should have taken
early.
Him. All I'm telling you is,
be better. Sorry, a little loud.
That's very loud.
Moving on.
Hey guys, thanks for watching. Be sure to check out more of our content right here on the Flames Nation YouTube page. We had a bunch of great long form interviews. You can check out some videos we've done as well outside of the studio. And of course, if you want more writing or merchandise stuff, flamesnation.ca or nationgear.ca. Appreciate you watching.